We love Classical Conversations.
Your organization is known worldwide, and we certainly appreciate every facet that you do.
I do believe in what you're doing because I've seen it in my family.
I'm so excited about all the things that, Robert, you guys do with Classical Conversations. It's been a huge blessing for our family.
Grateful for the work at Classical Conversations. You're a leader, and you have been in this movement for a long time.
I do feel like I have a debt of gratitude to you, your family, all of CC for just the fruit that has come from CC.
Appreciate all that you guys do, both through this wonderful podcast and also through Classical Conversations, which I am convinced is the best education resource out there. Thank you very much for all that you do for the cause of Christ and for our families and for our children. Really, really appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I'm super excited to have a special in-house edition today with my sister-in-law, Emma Bortins of our Refining Rhetoric podcast. A little bit about her. She's a skilled communicator, producer, and relationship builder with a passion for hospitality-driven engagement. She works at Classical Conversation as a producer and publicist for founder Leigh Bortins, helping amplify the mission of classical Christian homeschooling across the media and educational platforms. She was instrumental in getting us on the Sean Ryan Show earlier this year. And she also serves as a nonprofit consultant specializing in educational-focused initiatives that strengthen communities and promotes lifelong learning. She was homeschooled with Classical Conversations. She's worked as executive assistant for a really large nonprofit. She's managed calendars, firm-wide events, initiating full-time positions to meet growing needs. She's worked for a church pension group where she created original learning programs and digital resources that reached over 300 clients with a 100% satisfaction rate. She holds a BA in Media, Culture, and the Arts from the King's College, graduating cum laude, and known for her creativity, warmth, and organizational strength. She's thriving on building meaningful connections. So I'd like to welcome my sister-in-law, Emma, to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Now, it's been wonderful getting to know you over the last few years. And just for our audience, tell us about your homeschooling experience and what was that like? Were you glad to be homeschooled or did you fight your mom on it? Yeah, just give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, I loved my homeschooling experience more than I could ever express. And my gratitude towards my parents is more than I could ever put into words. I started homeschooling when I was in second grade. My mother was a special ed teacher in the public school system. And after being in the system, she realized she wanted to homeschool her kids. And so she took me and my brother out. And we started homeschooling, picking and choosing different curriculums throughout those first couple years homeschooling. She was, getting her setting in the homeschool world. And then we found Classical Conversations. And I started that when I was at the end of Challenge A. And it was a difficult transition at first, just reorienting the way I thought about learning, the way I viewed education compared to the way that the world portrays it. And so it was a bit of a fight in the beginning, but through the challenge program, I just fell in love with learning in a whole new way. And having the spectacular capstone projects at the end of every year just made me excited to start the next year and eventually graduate. And I can go more into that, but
yeah, I'm sure if you can go into the Wayback Machine, do you remember what your senior thesis was on? And
oh yeah, so I was actually talking with a family about this. My senior thesis was about how the question was, should the church engage and use social media to engage their congregations? Should church be online? And that was really interesting because I did that back in 2017, 2018. Okay. And then COVID happened. And so we saw what happened when the church went online and what were some of the implications of that? What were some of the pros and cons? And so I did a senior thesis again in college where I just expanded on the senior thesis I did in CC. And I got to kind of play off of that, review the statistics and what it actually looked like for people who had to be a part of church online. And so, that was really neat. That was my senior thesis and then also my senior thesis in college. So I told a family recently that if their kids wanted to pursue higher learning after graduating, that they should consider taking their senior thesis that they did in CC and doing it in college as well. And lots of professors will let them do that.
That's cool. I know a lot of people are wondering if their kids are ready for college, and I know they are, they are, but just having the ability to have the work that they've even done in high school, apply for college and being able to use it again is a big, kind of head start for them. But yeah, tell us about, you went to King's College. It was in downtown New York City. Tell us about the transition from being, kind of in that homeschool environment. Even though King's College itself wasn't really big, you're in a, kind of the epicenter of financial districts and
Right.
arts in the world. So yeah, tell us about that transition.
Yeah, well, I always say that CC prepares you really well for college, both academically, mentally, and spiritually. Being in New York City, I don't feel like I was a part of a small college, as you said, because I had millions of people I ran into every day and in different scenarios. So in that regard, CC really prepared me to be social with all different types of people, all different ages, not just with my peers in a classroom in a rural town. And so that was really nice. And then CC has so many different pieces of literature and papers that we write and read throughout, the program that come up, especially if you're in a classical college. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christian, but I was faced with a lot of the same texts that I had when I was in the CC program. So I'd already grappled with some of the big ideas and wrestled with them so I could go deeper into the papers and the assignments that I had to do. I had a few professors just ask me if I was homeschooled, and I would say yes. Why do you ask? And they always said, we know the homeschoolers in our classroom because they ask good questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that always just made me feel really good about my homeschooling experience in high school. And so it prepared me for college in that way, academically, and then spiritually, especially in New York. I mean, in higher education places, there's already such an attack on the mind and on the spirit. And then in New York, you have the culture and the masses just trying to pull you down in that regard. But because I was at home with my family for some of the most crucial times in a kid's development, I feel like I didn't lose my footing and I didn't waver in my faith. And I was able to stand firm against some of the things that came up in that environment. So yeah, it prepared me academically, spiritually, mentally, all those ways.
Yeah, I mean, you got a major in media, culture, and the arts. Like, how did having that rhetorical experience and challenge, prepare you for that? Was a lot of those, were you able to recognize some of those tools earlier in what you did in high school? Or, were they, I mean, they're probably using modern terms, but could you see the classical roots? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I actually feel like I saw it better after college. When you're in college, you're really focused. And like I said, a lot of the same texts that I had already read and been familiar with came up again. And so in that regard, it kind of made my college experience a little bit easier, but I was just able to go deeper into some of those things. But when I graduated, I was really able to identify the tools of learning that I knew and apply that to different scenarios that I was faced with post-grad in my work. So like an employer would ask me, do you know this software or program? And I would never say, no, I don't. And just figure out what happened, let the chips fall where they may. No, I want to keep my job. So I'd say, I will learn. I will figure that out. And I knew to take, okay, what's the grammar of this?
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the dialectic? What are the questions I can ask? Who are the people I can go to? And then can I teach this to someone else? What's the rhetoric? And so I really started identifying that post-grad when I was kind of out of that, education bubble. But I certainly used those tools in college, just maybe not realizing it. But particularly in post-grad in my work, I was like, wow, I need to go back. I need to figure out how do I learn something that I'm not familiar with and keep my job.
Yeah.
So
well, it's definitely important with the rise of AI and all that stuff going on, is being able to have those tools of learning. And so I'd like to say on my Twitter, classically educated students are going to be more successful because of the rise of AI and just the ability to use it and being able to ask good questions. It's such an important part of that. You talked about your senior thesis in media, and you're doing that here at Classical Conversations. What are some of the things you wish people knew about like social media? Because it can be a powerful tool, it can also be addictive, and there's always kind of that conflict of, am I using this properly? Or even if I use it properly, if other people use it improperly, should I just leave these things, or is it a tool? So yeah, tell us about, like, how do you view social media? How should Christians use it?
Yeah, so the way I view social media is just a medium. I referenced, oh my goodness, I referenced Neil Postman so much when I was in college, and just talking about how, the message is the medium, or the medium is the message. And that's how I view social media, is just another route that you deliver a story. And so with that being said, you need to have a critical eye, know what's real, what's the story, what's the angle. And that's really all it is. It's just another medium to get the message across.
How can Christians just like use social media better to tell stories? Because it seems like a lot of times we're very fact-based, black and white. The Bible says this, so this is the answer, which is accurate, but might not be and sometimes it needs to be said. So I'm not saying don't ever say that, but how can we use stories to amplify? Because I think that's what we saw Jesus doing.
Sure. Well, something really big with my generation, and that's the Gen Zers, is we're already skeptical of everything online. We already assume that everything's fake. And so really compelling stories are the ones that seem real, gritty, a little bit imperfect. And so I think when Christians are delivering their message on social media, the less curated, the less washed over, brushed over it is, the better, especially because people are already skeptical of the message on social media. I think the more authentic it can be delivered, it will be beneficial to our message.
Now you graduate college and you go into the working world. Like how is that moving from college to the working world? Because a lot of times employers say their college graduates aren't ready. Did you feel like you were prepared, or that you were kind of prepared? Like tell us about that transition into quote unquote the real world.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I talk about networking a lot because you have to do it, especially I get frustrated because I think, how are kids supposed to find a job coming out of college? Because employers have all these requirements. You need X amount of experience, this many years doing something. And so it's really difficult to get a job. So you have to be really good with networking, shaking people's hands, asking them for a chance. Don't assume that you're going to get a high level position off the bat. You need to put in the time, you need to put in the effort, doing the apprenticeships, doing the assistant jobs. You need to just really focus on putting your time in at the places that you want to work. And then for me, it was very important that I started working when I was in college to get that experience before I graduated. And so that's what I did. But it's difficult. And the key to success, like I said, is just using your network. Going back to your parents, saying, hey, how did you guys get jobs? What do you guys like to do? Can I be an apprentice for you, Dad or Mom? Can I watch what you guys do for work? And just leveraging your network is going to be really helpful for students now coming out of college.
Hey everyone, thank you for letting me interrupt today's episode to tell you about Gutenberg College. Over the past 2,000 years, the West has developed a successful educational model that guides students towards mature, independent thought. Gutenberg College, a Christian Great Books undergraduate program in the Pacific Northwest, embraces this time-tested approach. At Gutenberg, students are encouraged to boldly pursue truth within a biblical framework. They do so with peers and faculty mentors and small group discussions. To find out more, go to gutenberg.edu. That's gutenberg.edu. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, there's this saying, your network is your net worth.
Exactly.
And I think it's what you know, but it's also who you know, because you got to get doors open for you. And a lot of that is just putting yourself out there and doing that hard work. And I found myself being at a working college and even in high school was a great opportunity, not just to gain skills and build a resume, but also figure out what you're good at or what you're not good at, or what you like and what you don't like, so you can try to get into a sweet spot earlier in life. I mean, I think you see some of the studies show 27% of college graduates aren't working in their degree field within like 3 years of graduation. And,
Right.
they're saddled with, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and not even, necessarily quote unquote using their degree that they got. So, you've been in the nonprofit area, you've been in the for-profit area. I think a lot of people think that nonprofit means you don't have to make money, but there's still bills and things that you have to pay. So
Right.
what are some similarities between your for-profit and nonprofit work? And maybe what are some differences between working in those two fields?
Yeah. So a lot of the nonprofits that I work with are Christian. So they do have the same leader ultimately overall. They all want to follow Christ and do his will, which is great. But the difference is they all have different missions, whether it's helping the homeless or ending human trafficking or a church, trying to reach more people. And so what I've realized is that even though they all have different missions, they all have a similar need or the same need. And the needs really come down to three things. They either need a vision, they need, where are we going? What's in the future? They need people, like really good people to implement the vision and in the right seats at the right time, or they need money, or they need all three. And so that seems to be the uniting factor between all the nonprofits I work with. And what I love about working with nonprofits is that they all come from such a place of just genuine, earnest, we want to help, different people in different scenarios. And so it's really fulfilling work. I really love to help them get one of those three or all of those three, the vision, people, or money. And there's ways to do it. And they all just seem to be united by those three things.
Yeah, I think, good people, vision, and money. It's pretty much the three things all of us need, no matter what type of industry that you're in. What we have small business owners and different types of people like that listen to the podcast. What are some things like that you've learned as a publicist? Because the more people that know about your business or what you're doing in ministry, the more people that are going to catch that vision and join you or support you. So, talk about either getting on podcasts or getting articles, op-eds. What are some of the things small business owners or people who just want to get the word out about something they're doing should be aware of? And what are some techniques you use to get things published?
Sure. Well, being a good publicist means you have to be good at representing someone, representing a company, representing a brand, a person, a celebrity. And being able to do that means you have to be a good storyteller. So you have to be able to understand the person that you're working with and be able to explain who they are, what they want to do to someone else really well, really effectively. And for me, I guess the key to my success is that I try to do that in the most authentic, other-centric way. I want to know what is the other side's need, what's the type of person or brand that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to say, hey, look, I have a story for you. I have a person for you that I think would be mutually beneficial. And I've noticed that being other-centric is a much more fruitful way to go when it comes to being a publicist than being self-oriented. And I think a lot of people, when they think of publicists, they think of an aggressive, person, but you really don't have to be. You have to be stern, you have to be strong, but you don't need to be, quote unquote, aggressive. You just need to be authentic.
No, nice. Now, you made me an uncle for the first time. So
You're welcome.
The little 1-year-old. But yeah, so I think a lot of people have misconceptions and about if you're homeschooled, that means you're going to know how to homeschool. And I mean, quite honestly, same thing with college. I mean, you don't really know. I mean, you're just when you're growing up, you're not paying, probably if you're like me, as much attention as your parents would like you to the philosophy behind your education. And it's hard to see the forest from the trees sometimes. So yeah, I know you obviously not in foundations yet, but yeah, how's that transition been from, theoretically wanting a family and being homeschooled to now having someone that who's life depends on you.
Yeah. Well, being a parent is very humbling, as you know. It's the hardest job I've ever had. It's also the most rewarding job I've ever had.
Well, if my brother helped more, then it might be easier.
No, he's great. My husband's a professional dad. No, but it is a very humbling experience being a parent. And I have more respect for my parents than I ever had before becoming a mom. And I also have a whole new change of perspective on what it means to be a homeschooling mother and what it means to be a hospitable mother and a hospitable home for your kids and homeschooling them. And it's a little hard to talk about it right now because what you said, I'm at like my lowest relatable point right now. I can't speak to I can't speak to like high schoolers because I'm a mom now. So they're like, oh, she's too far out of the program. I can't speak to homeschooling parents right now because I'm still in the young stages. But I don't have to be relatable to say some of these things that are true and that homeschooling is the best scenario for families. And I know that because I lived it.
Hey everyone, interrupting today's episode to tell you about the 2026 Classical Conversations Family Cruise. I hope you have heard about it. Classical Conversations 2026 CC Family Cruise is going to set sail on May 16th, 2026 out of Miami. This is an exciting adventure open to all CC family and alumni. We're going to try to do some stuff for alumni on this cruise. It's going to include a National Memory Master Competition, National Commencement, and special CC family activities. Interest is booming with over 800 people already interested in cruising with us, and cabins are selling out fast. We don't want you to miss this. You can book your cabin now at classicalconversations.com/cruise-2026. That's classicalconversations.com/cruise-2026. And remember, to participate in Classical Conversations activities, you need to book through the CC group. So grab your sunscreen, your beach bag, and join us on board. We'll see you at the 2026 Classical Conversations Family Cruise. It's going to be a blast. Don't want to miss it. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, so how has homeschooling helped your relationship with your parents? Because I know sometimes you hear the argument from people, I could never homeschool because I couldn't be around my kids that much, or I don't have the patience for that. It's like, well, if you're not a patient person, that's a personal flaw that you should fix. But usually don't say that to them face to face. Anyways, I just said it on my podcast, so clip it, put it on Instagram. So how did that change your relationship with your parents? Do you feel like homeschooling made your relationship stronger with them? I mean, there's always tensions whenever you're with someone a lot. But now as an adult and having your own kids, did that make you appreciate them more? And we'll tell your mom not to watch this episode at this time.
Sure. Well, what I really appreciated about my homeschooling experience is that I really wasn't home that often.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common misconception when it comes to homeschoolers, that you are at home 100% of the time. And I wasn't. I was a part of dance. I did music lessons. We, went to little PE classes with our other kids, and we were always at the Y. And I just didn't really feel like I was cooped up inside the house to have that animosity with my parents or with my sibling, because we always had these outlets that we could go to. I think homeschooling really helped my relationship with my father the most. He is a full-time minister. He's full-time ministry. And so, as you know, with pastors and priests, they're incredibly busy. Their congregation are like children. So their time already is very limited. And I think because I was homeschooled, I was able to have more time with my dad. My mom was already, committed to being with us most of the time and being the present, stay-at-home parent to homeschool us. But if it hadn't been for all that extra time I had at home, I don't think I would have the relationship with my dad that I do now, which I'm very grateful for.
What, being a pastor kid is kind of a, can be a running joke about different things. What are some of the stuff that your dad did that made it so that, you didn't have the negative consequences of that spotlight?
We were involved a lot with my dad's ministry. Some of my early experiences, like socializing, was actually at dinners that my dad went to with parishioners. And these are like people in their 60s and 70s. And my brother and I would have to be at these dinners for hours. And we would have to learn how to have conversations with older people. And so we always felt like we were really involved in his ministry and never like trophies or spectacles. And so I think that made it so we were, I don't know, less rebellious. I don't know if that's even still a stereotype of pastors' kids, but we never felt that way. We just always felt really a part of what he was doing and invited into whatever he had going on.
That's good to know. I mean, I think, I don't know if the stereotype's true or not, but you always hear it. And probably just like anyone who's in the spotlight, having, my kids or my wife, and they have the last name Bortins. So it's like, you got to behave a certain way or whatever. And
sure,
no,
I feel that more now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no, we're just normal people. We screw up just as much as everyone else. I'm probably not even allowed to say that word that way. I'm supposed to say mess up or something. So yeah. All right. You can just email customer service and tell them I said a bad word. But anyways, what do you think, on the media driven side, like what is the classical education movement doing right with media, and what could we do better?
What I think we're doing a lot of things right. So I'm just going to focus on two of the things that we could be working on. The first thing is the myth that homeschoolers are antisocial or socially awkward. It still exists. I can't believe that it exists because I've met homeschoolers in the wild. I've worked with homeschoolers, and that has never been my experience. But I think just continuing to put that message out there on social media, just for others' eyes to see and observe that, we're a part of society and functioning and totally normal, which I don't even want to be normal. I don't even want to be like the world. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my kids to be like the world. I want them to be in the world, but not of it. Or yes. Yeah. But I don't, the myth exists that homeschoolers can't function in social settings. And so that will be important for us to dispel in the media. And then the other thing is still educating about school choice, which you do a phenomenal job on this podcast and other speaking engagements. That's going to be important because we're coming up on the third generation of homeschoolers, which means their grandparent homeschooled them. And so there's this whole new generation that loves homeschooling, but they might not be familiar with some of the trials and limitations that their predecessors dealt with in making homeschooling as accessible and free as it is today. And so we don't want to lose our freedom, which is important that, you keep spreading that message, and other kids my age, I'm not even a kid anymore, but I feel like a kid, but young adults and new homeschooling parents start spreading that message as well.
Sure. We mentioned earlier you work with my mom and publicist and getting her out there. What's it like to work with the Leigh Bortins?
Super fun. I met Leigh at the same time I met your brother, my husband. We met 4 years ago, and I was more excited to meet her than I was to meet your brother, truthfully. But she's really fun to work with. I think we get along well because I like to learn. And so being around her, I kind of just feel like a sponge sometimes. I just want to absorb all of those wise nuggets that she has to say. But we have a good time. We've gone on a few trips together to meet CC leaders. One of my favorite memories with her is we went to Canada to meet with some of our Canada friends, and we went on a hike to a tea house that was supposed to be a 10-minute walk, turned into a 6-hour experience. And I had strep throat, and I was hiking up this mountain with her. But when we got up to the mountain together, she said, "You are the first person that's been able to tire me or make me feel tired," because she's a very energetic person. And so that made me feel really good.
She's ruthless.
But it was a great trip, and I love being able to work with her.
What's one thing that surprised you about working with Leigh? Like, what was like a conception you had that maybe didn't live out, or something that you wouldn't even think about that she's always bringing up?
Yeah, something that surprised me. I was I was surprised at how um, I don't even know if I was surprised, to be honest, because when I was in CC, I didn't know a lot about her
Sure.
or her story, and so I think I was most surprised by her story, and the way that she was able to work and be a homeschooling mom. I think was the most surprising, and how there were seasons where her husband worked and she stayed in the home, and there were seasons where she worked and he stayed in the home. Your dad stayed in the home. And I think that was the most surprising for me, is to hear how she was able to be a homeschooling parent and also pursue some of her work or political aspirations while doing that and raising kids. So that was the most surprising.
That's good. Yeah. What we always want to leave you with a last word. So, what are some of the? How can people connect with you if they want to get to know you better personally and see the work that you're doing to promote classical conversations and all the great nonprofits you consult with?
Sure. Well, I guess this podcast is going to be a good place to start. And then I help produce a lot of Leigh's book clubs. So the Math Map Book Club I'm on, you can, don't ask me questions on there. You can just, put it in the chat or something or email me. But I guess I'll just give out. You can always email me, Emma Bortins at Classical Conversations. And if I get flooded, I might not get back to you in a timely manner. But I would say that's a good way to get to know me. But I love being a service to my community in the best ways that I can. I've been a senior thesis judge. I believe really strongly in mentorship. And so I have a mentor. I tell challenge students, you should think about getting a mentor. I would love to be able to help others do that in their communities.
So what, final question, for a parent who might be considering homeschooling, maybe has some questions, like, what would you tell someone who's watching this and is kind of on the fence about what they're going to do the next academic year?
Sure. I would ask them why they're on the fence to start off with. I would ask them, what are some of their hesitancies? Why are they afraid or nervous to start homeschooling? And then we can start from there, because there's a variety of reasons why people are hesitant to homeschool. Some of it stems from financial reasons, or, they want to work or they don't want to work, or they're totally unfamiliar with homeschooling. And so there's different ways to answer that. But I hope that I am living proof of a few of those myths or hesitancies that people have. You can work and homeschool and be a parent. You can find ways to finance that. You can find ways to become a learner and help your kids learn. You don't have to be like the system tells you to be or the world tells you to be. So,
well, Emma Bortins, we just had a conversation between two unsocialized homeschoolers today on a podcast that's going to be watched by thousands. So, thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, can find Emma on X. You can find her on Instagram. I'm sure she might accept your friendship. I don't know. Thank you so much for being on the Refining Rhetoric show today. It's a pleasure being your brother-in-law and seeing you grow and seeing the beautiful family you guys are curating down there in Florida. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, like to see some of the inside baseball going on in the Bortins house, please share today's episode with a friend and be sure to tune in next week on another exciting episode of Refining Rhetoric. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortins. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation, and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.